back to Holding Court with Todd Dagenais, Night fans. Along with the coach, I'm Jeff Sharon. This is part 2 of our 2010 season wrap-up as UCF concludes 2010 on a high note. Coach, you guys finished at 16-16 overall, your best overall record since 2003. 9-11 in Conference USA, best Conference USA record in school history since joining the conference. And really, it was a season of ups and downs. You know, tell me. We'll start first with the high point. What for you was the high point of the 2010 season?
Well, there's so many of them. You can look back to the start, where we started off, and I don't know, best start in 20 some odd years, maybe since the 70s or something like that. That may have been one of them. Break in the slump against East Carolina, that could have been one of them. I think maybe the 5-game win at home against UAB, who it turns out was way better than what anybody had thought they were going to be at that point. That may be the one. The other one was the later win at Memphis, a place that we hadn't had much success at, and we were tied with them at that point, and we went in there, and I thought we handled our business really well. So there's a bunch of high points along the way, I think, and maybe I'd say that UAB win at home. That might be the one that stands out the most.
Tell me about what you thought was the low point of the season, and what was the trigger that was the turning point out of that low spot?
Boy, and we started off 7-0, and we come back home, and we're in our home tournament, and we play Baylor. And Baylor's a traditional NCAA tournament team that's loaded with talent, and we pressed them. We had a chance to win, and my fear is that maybe we were a little bit scared to win. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was. As a coach, you always try to figure out what was it. Whatever it was, I knew I didn't like where we were at that point, and it led to a long discussion in the locker room. And looking back retroactively, that may have been a good one where I just walk in the locker room and say, "Look, wasn't our night. Let's get it tomorrow." That might have been the right thing to do. And I think that we hurt our confidence a little bit, and maybe I have to take some responsibility. It's not that we didn't lay into them or anything like that, but we really reflected on a lot of the negative, trying to turn it into this is what we need to do to beat these kind of teams. And so that ended up being a late match. We finished late that night. We turn around the next morning. We have to play Jacksonville early. Well, we hadn't lost to Jacksonville since we'd been here, and that's a team that came here with the sole intent of beating us. And to play a long, drawn-out 5-game match with them, have opportunities to win, and came up short. That really was a turning point there. And looking back, I wish maybe I would have handled the Baylor part of it a little bit better, because maybe we wouldn't have had the residual effect the next day. So now we go on to this streak of go up to Chattanooga and play a tough James Madison team. They were really good. They ended up having a terrific year. Lost the 3 games that we lost. I think we lost 3-1. The 3 games that we lost were deuce games. We get in against Chattanooga. We're up 2-0. Roxy sprains her ankle. And the matchups that we had, believe it or not, in that match were to have Roxy playing defense against a certain player. And it changed our matchups, and we could never get through it. And even in that match, it was game 4. We had match point. We swung for match point. Chattanooga made a great dig, and the ball fell through the setter's hands. And the referee went to blow the whistle and thought, I'm not going to end the match on this. They pop it back over. The ball lands in. They end up scoring the next 3 points. We end up going to 5 and lose. For all intents and purposes, the whistle blows, and we won that match. And that was a heartbreaking loss. First of all, to be up 2-0, and we should have taken care of business from there. It shouldn't have been on a referee. We shouldn't have put it in a referee's hands. And to be in that situation where then we didn't get the call and then we didn't take care of business again after that, it's just really so many things had to go wrong there. Play a hungry Belmont team, and again, we just lose the games by 2 points and opportunities, and we're ahead most of the time, and our confidence was shot. I mean, really, our confidence started to get rocked in the Baylor match, and it was shot by the time we got to Tennessee. Then we were probably in the worst possible position to open up conference season. On the road against Marshall, which is one of the tougher road trips.
Back to back, and three of the 4 on the road.
Right.
Yeah.
We opened 3 of our 4 conference matches on the road with a team whose confidence is shot. And, I thought, we didn't compete well at Marshall, but I thought we got mad. At some point during each of those 2 matches, we got mad enough where we fought back. I mean, we were down a gob of points. Yet, of the 6 games we lost, 5 of them were by 2 points. Yeah. And, so that was a tough week. And then we have to play Houston and Rice. We go to Houston. We had some success. We took a game. Evie sprains her ankle. Yeah. At the end of the second game, the game that we won, she sprained the ankle. And, then we kind of sputter our way through the remainder of the match, just trying to patch it together. Come back home to play Rice. I thought we were really competitive. We just came up short. And, they had their whole lineup intact then. Now, they suffered some injuries later in the year. So now here we find ourselves 0-4 in conference after, a confidence-deflating issue being in the tournament. And, boy, we were against the wall. And ECU comes to town for our series match against them. And, they had struggled in the preseason. They ended up struggling for most of the season. And I'm telling you, it just ended up being, for us, the right medicine at the right time. If we could find a way to find our confidence and to try and take care of business, it was going to be our opportunity to break the streak. And that's what we did that weekend. So I would say, that opening conference weekend, we had the Rice match, but the opening weekend for conference at home, that ended up being our turning point.
If you could take a snapshot of one moment for the season and put it up on the wall and say, this is what represents 2010, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody took a great picture of Game 5, the final block against UAB, and the elation on our players' face. And they're sliding in, and they're just an exuberance. Someone got that shot. And I don't know who that was, but that is the shot for 2010. What that is that's a team that was willing to accomplish, was willing to put it on the line, wanted to win, was willing to come back from adversity, and that picture showed all of that right there. So that's the snapshot. And it's actually something that somebody can see. It's not a mythical snapshot.
So now you head to the off season, and I heard you talking about this earlier, that when we look back on it, when we're old and gray, we're going to see that this season was the turning point of your regime here. What do you do now in the off season that prepares the players who are still around for keeping that momentum going?
I think the first thing we need to do is rest. And we had talked about what are we going to do in these remaining weeks of this semester. We're going to rest. We are going to get off of our feet. We're going to rehab. We're going to do the things that we need to do just to get back to neutral again, because the season was long. It takes a toll on your body. We'll come back in January. We'll kind of see where they are in terms of their health and their mental health. And if they are where I think we are, then we'll begin our small group training in January. And I think for us, we're still young enough that we have to work on technical and technique. I look at Roxy, I look at Kayalise, I look at all the younger players, and they haven't had that spring with us yet. Yeah. So it's going to be a real technical, very specific skill training spring on one part. The other part, we're still returning a good core of players who have that individual technique, who need more system work. So it's going to be an interesting balance for us to take care of the needs of our younger players, who we're going to depend on, and our older players, who we now want to ramp up more system work and prepare ourselves better for when we play teams that throw curveballs at us. So we're not so one or two dimensional, and so we don't have to prepare with as much video, and we don't have to prepare with as much of the scouting report. We don't have to spend so many hours in preparation. We can really depend more on ourselves instead of trying to figure out how we're going to slow the other team down enough so we can overcome them.
Now, what are your goals for the team heading forth now as we go into the spring and then eventually into the summer?
I think, first of all, we always look at speed, agility, and quickness. I firmly believe that you can take an athlete and you can make them percentages better in each of those areas: speed, agility, quickness. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at ways biomechanically, technically, physiologically, we're going to look at ways where we can get an extra 1% or a 2%, because the 1 or 2% was the difference in the 2-point losses. So we want to be on top of that. And so that's really what it's going to be this spring, is we're going to find ways to make everybody as elite as they can possibly be. And we're going to probably spend a good 6 to 8 weeks doing that once we report back in January.
You got to be excited about the core that's coming back. We talked about, how throughout the season, really, Meredith Murphy has been fantastic at the libero position for you. She's just solid as a rock. You put her back there and just kind of forget about her because she's there all the time. Evie Volleyball fought off a lot of injuries. She played much of the season at barely 50%, and was still quite effective in the time that she was, even after the injury. We saw Angelica Crump grow up so much from the course of this season. What about that group coming back, and if you can give me some individual points on each of them, really gets you excited about 2011 and the crew you have coming back?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing let's start with the quarterback. Let's start with Rachel, and Rachel came in and stabilized our offense, and we were functioning at a level consistently over a course of a year that we've never done. And bringing her back, and she's hungry. She wants to get us, and she wants to get us on the board on Selection Sunday. And I'm really excited, about having that back. Marie Ridarova really started to get good by the end of the year, and there's an opportunity there that we'll have enough hitting talent with all the freshmen that are going to come in. We'll talk about that later. But we may go to a 6-2 next year, and a 6-2 really gives opponents fits, matchup-wise. And so we may end up in a situation next year where both setters are setting, and we're running a 6-2 offense. And I think that might be the best way for us to score enough points night in and night out. It's something that we've talked about before. So obviously, Tori McCutcheon and Nicole Rydell, solid all year, posted solid numbers. We're working on getting some of the blocking numbers up a little bit higher.
And even they were banged up a little bit, too, as the course of the season went through.
And that's going to happen with middles. That's why you need to have 4 middles. You have to have 4 middles because they're going to get banged up. And, they really worked their way through all their injuries, and they played and they performed at a very high level. Tori, by the end, we were matching Tori up on the opponent's best hitter, and we were matching Nicole up on the best hitting matchup. And so what we did is we sacrificed Tori's offense for her defense, and we sacrificed Nicole's blocking for her offense. And that's really what you do sometimes when you have middles that are like that. So they performed, wonderfully. Meredith, solid. What a great year. She still has 2 years left. And I think Danny stepped up and was a rock in passing. She's really committed to being great on defense, and that's what she's going to spend a lot of time working on. Roxy was the surprise of the year, and she did a great job in the backcourt. But certainly you look at Angelica and you say, look at where she started. And we knew that she was going to make mistakes early, and we knew that it could cost us some matches. We were willing to take that risk because of the payoff that you saw at the end of the year, where she had, I want to say the last month of the year, she was hitting over 300, hitting for high numbers. We started her in the front row where we normally started Fisher in the front row, and boy, she did such a great job. So the core coming back, plus we get Kaylee's Green off of her injury, the freshmen that are going to come in, Evia will continue to improve. I just really love what we have coming back.
It looks like it's going to be exciting for UCF in 2011, and certainly also in the spring of 2010. Don't forget, you can follow UCF throughout the offseason on Facebook and Twitter, and also on UCFathletics.com. Now, don't go away. We're going to come back with our final part of our 2010 season wrap-up here on Holding Court with Todd Dagenais as we look back at the 3 seniors, Kristen Fisher, Sarah Rex, and Brittany Wallace, and the impression that they leave here at UCF. We're going to be back with that in a few. This is Holding Court with Todd Dagenais.